This is Money Made Simple, the financial podcast that keeps it simple and gets to the point.
Kia ora and welcome back to Money Made Simple with Simplicity. I'm Jenny and this is Liv.
Hi.
Hi, great to have you back. You've been away. It feels like forever.
It's so good to be back working rather than on holiday.
Yeah, you've got a lovely natural glow about you.
Yes, I've just been in the US and Mexico for the last 10 days, got back on Monday. It's now Wednesday, I think. So just that holiday memory is fading fast, but good to be back with you, Jenny.
Well, I'm glad, but I'm only here for another couple of hours.
Yes.
And then I'm going on holiday.
Yes, Jenny is leaving me for a whole month, which is going to be a bit heartbreaking, but that's okay. We're going to have our breaks, and it's what we save for, right?
Yes, exactly. This is a big holiday for our family, and we have been saving up for it for quite a few years.
And that's a good segue into today's topic.
It is.
Right? Because today we're talking about budgeting, one that we think is really important as a kind of key financial concept. So, today we're going to talk about why a budget is important, different methods that you can use, and some resources that we've kind of discovered for you that might help you on your budgeting journey.
Yeah,
so,
sure. And maybe share a few of our own experiences with budgeting in our lives.
Yes, or lack of.
Yeah.
Just a bit of a caveat here. So none of this is personalised financial advice or recommendations, just some hopefully helpful tips and tricks to kind of consider in your own situation, help you on your journey.
Yeah, and maybe point you in the right direction if you do want some specific advice for you.
Yeah, so let's get stuck in.
Cool. Well, let's start with defining what a budget actually is.
So it's really simple. It's basically a money plan or simple plan for your income versus your expenditure. So what you earn versus what you spend. Yeah, we'll go over some common useful ways to potentially help you do your own budget. But essentially, budgeting is tracking your income and expenses to ensure that these two opposing forces, kind of income's the opposite to spending, right, are aligned. So you don't spend more than you earn.
So for someone like me, I'm like instantly bored about even the thought.
I thought I was really interesting there.
No, you're interesting, but budgeting is not interesting. So I think it's also really important to think about the why. So cool, a budget is a plan and, it's made
Income,
up of these various things.
Yeah.
What do you think some of the key reasons we would do it?
So basically, I think that it helps keep your finances more stable, more on track, and it allows you to kind of understand what's essential versus what you need and want to prioritise in terms of the now and in the future. So how you spend your hard-earned cash and understanding that, I think, that whole knowledge is power is really important.
Yeah. Traditionally, I've been a bit of a head in the sand type person, but I am married to someone who loves an Excel spreadsheet, so we have always had a budget. But I think there's one good reason is just a bit of peace of mind. If you know exactly what's coming in, you know what's coming out, you can start to identify if there are any issues there. So first of all, it's just a bit of clarity, right? And headspace to start making some better plans.
Yeah. On that note, it can also steer you towards the things that you care about or more purposeful reasons.
Yes. I think that identifying the difference between needs and wants as well is a really critical one because
The want monster, remember?
Yes, the want monster. It can get a little bit out of control. Doing a budget forces you to think about what expenses are just critical to your life and what aren't, and then you can start to make priorities around that.
It can also help you work towards particular goals. So, for example, for me, it's working towards an early retirement. It might be like it has been in the last few years, a big holiday, a 4-week holiday, leaving Liv alone. That can really help you prioritise how you spend your money towards those goals. This is going a bit big, but give your life a bit more direction.
Oh, you're getting a bit philosophical.
Yeah. No, the holiday did that.
You don't really think of that when you think of a budget about life goals or anything, but to build the life that we want and actually having a plan for that is a really good place to start.
Yeah.
So do you have a budget?
I should say yes, but I've actually always been really...
Can't lie to our listeners.
No, I know. I've always been really bad at having a budget. I think in the background, in my subconscious, I have a budget. So we've probably always been in the quite lucky position where we earn more than what we would naturally spend. Both of us aren't big spenders. We have shit cars and we don't buy expensive clothes. We eat at home most of the time. Poor him, he's always cooking, I'm always eating. So I think just naturally we have always spent less than we earn, so we think about, and then I think about what we want to invest. Not a budget in the sense of what we're going to go over in today's session. In saying that, I do think a budget is really important. So do as I say, not as I do. What about
That's
you?
quite often the case on this podcast, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yes, we have had a budget, but like I said, I pay not very much
attention
to it. The reason for us is because our life has changed lots at different periods. So there's been lots of times we've been on one income, and that has changed things for us a lot. So we've had to be really careful about how we spent. So I think a budget, it's not something you do once. It constantly changes.
Good point.
Yeah, for us it's been a tool to manage all the change in our life over the last sort of 15 years.
The really varying income for you guys.
Yeah.
See, ours has probably been the opposite. Where our income has just slowly built as we've got more
Increased.
senior. Yeah.
Well, I mean, now we're both in good jobs, but we have 2 children, and there's a lot of kind of unknown expenses that come in, and so we still have to manage all that change.
I think in a nutshell, it's super advantageous to at least think about it and understand your income versus your expenditure at a base level, at the very minimum. And so as you talked about, that sense of control can be really rewarding, right?
Yeah. So should we talk about a couple of different budgeting methods? Because like with everything, there's different ways that you can kind of tackle. So I'll let you do the 50-30-20 because it feels like that's a more controlled thing that you would be quite good at.
Yeah, and I think it's probably something that we naturally do without thinking about it. 50-30-20 is basically understanding your total income, and by the way, this is net income, so after tax, but you divide your after tax income into 50% for your needs, so that covers your mortgage or your rent, your groceries,
bills, utilities,
insurance, kind of petrol, housing costs, all of that stuff that's really boring, but that is definitely going to be coming out of your income. And then you take 30%. That would be any food or drink or activities outside of your basics or necessities. And so that could be kind of clothes, makeup, takeaways,
the fun money, right?
Lunches at work, all that kind of thing. And then the final 20% would be for savings and or investments. So that could be saving towards your emergency fund, so that, for example, 3 to 6 months of ongoing basic costs. Extra KiwiSaver contributions if you want to make them, investments in shares and or managed funds or anything else like that, property investment. That's kind of thinking about your long-term financial goals with that 20%.
Being quite intentional, because I reckon if you've got an income where only 50% is going on your essentials, it'll be quite easy for the other 50 just to be all fun money.
Yes.
You just spend
Want
without
monster.
Yeah, and that's nice. You don't have to think about things. You just buy things when you want them or need them. But you could actually be making that money work a bit harder.
Yeah,
for you.
and 20% is probably more than you think.
Yeah.
Cool.
Another one, and this is it's more tangible in a way, but it's called the envelope system or the jar system, and you allocate a specific amount to lots of different things. So you might have an envelope for going out for dinner, an envelope for your rent or mortgage, an envelope for the kids' activities, an envelope for pet food, whatever, all those things, and you actually get the money out and you put it in those envelopes or jars. This could actually be digital. You could do it in a digital way where you've created a system where it sort of allocates the money. I don't know if there's any real advantage to getting down to that level of detail. I do think it's good when you're maybe a bit younger, like a student, and maybe your income's a little less than it's
restricted.
Yeah, a bit more restricted, and you have to be really disciplined.
Basically, it's allocating every last dollar, right?
Yeah, it's a great way if you've got kids to start with a little mini budget for children, like have a couple of jars. They can allocate their pocket money to those things. So that system works quite well when you're starting to talk to young people and children about money.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's probably the most common couple of methods of budgeting. There are plenty of others. There's one that's referred to as pay yourself first. So that's kind of prioritising what I talked about as the 20% of investments. So you think about what you want to save for the future first, and then you work out the essentials and your wants. There's value proposition budgeting, which focuses on the top things that you value in life. And then there is also incremental budgeting, which is contingent on you having made a plan already and then using last year's plan to then use for the upcoming year. So you might...
That's probably what we've been doing over the years.
Yeah, so
that's
it's kind
our
of like
baseline.
adjusting.
Yeah,
and you potentially want to save more, or your housing costs have gone up, or whatever. But you can kind of find the process or the tools that work best for you.
It might be a budget is just a budget. You're literally looking at your expenses and your against your income, and that's it. But if you want to start thinking particularly about saving, then these other methods can help.
And there are loads of tools online.
We haven't mentioned Sorted yet in this episode,
so
we
it's
better,
time.
we better talk about them. They do a great sort of range of resources, and they've got a budgeting tool that really guides you through the process. You can start to enter all your information, and it will spit out a more personalised plan for you. So Sorted is great.
Pocketsmith is another one. They have a really comprehensive budgeting tool, so it can integrate with your other apps like your banking and your KiwiSaver. And it kind of allows you to forecast out your finances. So if you're like me and you want to be financially independent earlier, so the FIRE movement, you can kind of work on that. So it's a bit more complex than, for example, Sorted and some other of those simple budgeting tools. It does cost though.
Right, so you have to pay for that app.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of those kind of subscription type products. And I haven't actually used it, but it can be quite a steep learning curve to get used to. So you have to kind of be committed to, looking at it monthly or whatever, however that looks.
Pay off in the long run. There is another free app. Is it Money Lover? Which is a bit more simplistic, but it is free, and it might be a good way to start off. And we should probably mention the banks do have tools within their apps that can help you start to allocate, sort of set goals and start to save money for certain things. So, and then Money Hub, our other besties.
Yes.
They have got some awesome content, and I think they've even got some reviews of some of the budgeting tools that are around.
They're always really good at educating, right? We love them.
We do.
Cool. Finally, let's discuss a couple of challenges that often come up when it comes to budgeting. So it's not always easy to even get your mind and your mind frame right and kind of get excited or involved in it.
Yeah, and you can put all the effort in, do the work, get the budget, and then just move on with
and
life.
never think about it again.
And it can actually be quite hard to stick to it. One of the great ways to help you stick to a budget is to talk about your goals for it. Let people know what you're trying to achieve, whether you're trying to save money or pay off debt maybe or whatever. Once you've got people on side with you, you're a bit more accountable to them, and they might say, how's such and such going? But two, they're going to be your supporters and just be there to help you reach your goals basically. So budget and then say it out loud to somebody, and that's going to help you stick to it.
That kind of is in line with our theme of, this whole podcast, and the reason we do it is let's talk more about money, right? Yeah. And part of that, talking about money, is talking about budgeting, what you're saving for and what you can and can't afford to do around your income versus expenditure. Another challenge I think the biggest challenge is sticking to a budget once you've made that money plan.
That's why you should automate as much of it as possible, right? Like your savings just come out before you even see them. You've got your bill account set up so that all goes in there. That's going to make it much easier if you don't have to think about it too much.
Yes, yeah. And I think part of that is starting small, so maybe just tracking the numbers and understanding your incomings versus your outgoings, and also writing down your goals. Apart talking about them, but also writing them down, it kind of, I think, solidifies things. So you know what you're working towards. It's a little bit more tangible, a bit more exciting to actually achieve it, rather than just being like, oh, I should save money.
The other one would be coping with unexpected expenses. So you've got your budget and maybe it's pretty strict, you haven't got a lot of surplus in there, and then a big expense comes up. You need to replace your car, or what are you smiling
I know
about?
where you're going. It's just emergency fund. This is
the rainy day fund.
Yes, exactly.
So that should almost be your first savings goal when you set up a budget, is to put aside some money. We call it a rainy day fund or emergency fund, so that it's going to help you stick to your budget long term, because when something does happen, you've got that little pot of money set aside. Yeah,
good point. Make it part of your budget. If you haven't saved for your emergency fund already, make it part of that. If you're using the 50-30-20 rule, make it part of that 20%.
Yeah,
20%
absolutely. And then once you've saved up that money, then you can start saving for something more exciting.
What about for contractors or part-time workers or students? That can be hard, right?
And that's been me in the past. I've been a contractor and a student and a part-time worker. You just have to actually be more disciplined.
I think an important thing there is probably understanding your base costs as a really important first step. So if you work out, what that essential spending on groceries and mortgage or rent, and then that could probably help you budget how much you need to, as a minimum, have incoming. So it's kind of like that envelope method, but flipping the switch on it. Any other personal thoughts or tips around budgeting that you think from all your sessions?
Just do it, I think. It's probably, it's the kind of boring life admin task that you're going to put off forever and ever, but you won't regret doing it. That sense of control and that sense of future focus, where am I going, what am I trying to achieve, that will make you feel really good. So just put some time aside, sit down and do it with your partner or even your flatmates, sit down and all do it together and, I don't know,
have a party.
Have a wine. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, those goals, so thinking about what's important to you. So I know off the top of my head, for me, it's holidays like I've just been on and you're about to go on. And that's life for me, and that kind of links to wanting to retire early. I want to go on my longer than 20-year holiday.
You're going to go on a big OE in your 50s.
Exactly. So, thinking about what's important to you can kind of help motivate you a little bit. And also talking to other people about it.
Yeah.
For you, I guess, it's about you and your kids' future, right? I would say.
Yeah, I'm just basically waiting till they start earning an income and I can start plugging that into the family budget.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So you're going to
put
use
them
your
to
kids
work.
as slave labour. Awesome. There's a few other resources which we will pop in the show notes. There is a helpful online resource called Money Talks. We've also got quite a few past episodes of Money Made Simple that can help you to do with the budget, like your emergency fund. We had a whole episode on that. We did a 2-part episode on cost of living tips and tricks, which can help you spend less and save more in these times. And also good versus bad debt. We had a couple of episodes on that, which kind of can help you as to what's good spend versus what can be kind of that spend that you might want to stay away from.
Yeah, so plenty of episodes to revisit. And there is a website called You Need a Budget. It's American and it's quite hilarious. They're a really fun bunch of people and they make lots of video content. And that's quite a cool resource too, just to make you a bit more motivated.
Cool. Let's wrap up there. So we have gone over what a budget is, so your simple money plan, income versus expenditure, so the most common kind of budgeting methods, some good tools, online resources that you can use to help you start creating your own budget, some challenges that we tend to see pop up with people budgeting, and then a couple more resources to help.
That's it.
Yeah, cool. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
This podcast contains personal opinions and is intended to provide educational information only. It doesn't relate to your particular financial situation or goals and is not financial advice or recommendations. Simplicity New Zealand Limited is the issuer of the Simplicity KiwiSaver scheme and investment funds. For product disclosure statements, please visit Simplicity's website, simplicity.kiwi.